The C Word is a pretty good episode of 30 Rock. This is the 14th episode of the first season. It's directed by Adam Bernstein. And as always, there will be spoilers as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. There are two main parts to the narrative. There's also a small subplot, which I'll talk about very briefly. I don't really have any thoughts on this. Kenneth says that he can't work with Grace because they have a romantic past, but they work together. And honestly, it's fine. It's not the most interesting, but it was nice filler. The rest of the episode focuses partly on Jack and Tracy and partly on Liz. And my favourite part is definitely Liz, so I'll talk about Liz last. Jack invites Tracy to a charity golf event. They go to the event. Obviously, there are a lot of other characters there, and Tracy asks why there weren't many black people there. And I don't think it was the right place and the right time to ask that question. Certainly Jack felt that way, and because of Tracy's, well, not necessarily Tracy's actions, I think that's far too harsh, and I think Jack was overreacting, but basically the scenario is that they can no longer take part. But actually, they get to be there anyway. And I love the fact that Tracy said to Jack, if you can't handle Tracy Jordan, don't invite Tracy Jordan. Jack took him there for various reasons. It's an event for raising money and awareness for diabetes. That's important for something that happens in a moment. But I love that. I love the fact that Tracy was saying, this is who I am. Don't use me and try and make me be somebody I'm not for your own personal benefit. I am who I am. And I think that that's very valid. Tracy is always going to be Tracy, and sometimes he might say things that are maybe inappropriate in the moment or to people where it's maybe not appropriate at the time. And Jack should have been aware of this, and he wasn't. And I think Tracy had some very valid points. And Tracy managed to save the situation by giving a very brief speech, but a very moving speech. It's also a lie. But he gave this speech about how his young daughter had diabetes, and he was saying it was his own fault because he wasn't giving her the right nutrition and looking after her properly. And it was a very moving little speech. Of course, Tracy doesn't have a daughter, but it was pretty entertaining and also, I think, quite powerful as well. And there are people there who can maybe help Tracy get his film career back on track, and all's well that ends well for Tracy. I liked him in this. I particularly enjoyed a lot of his perspectives and a lot of things he had to say, which was quite nice. But for me, definitely Liz was, for me, the star of the show, because I think it raises a lot of good points from different perspectives. Liz is quite blunt in the opening scenes. She's not the most friendly person. And while she is holding a kitten, a rather adorable kitten, Greta, the cat handler, is there, and Liz overhears Lutz saying that Liz Lemon is a grade A, and then Greta says runt, of course referring to the cat being the runt of the litter. But it's very clear what word Lutz had called Liz in that moment. And understandably, she was outraged. But she was talking to Frank, and it was quite interesting because she said, and I quote, "There is no male equivalent to this word." I have never thought of that word as being offensive to women only. Never, ever have I thought that it's a term that's offensive to women, but it wouldn't have the same impact said to a man. And I'd be interested to know if other people feel the same way, but I was kind of baffled by that statement, because to me, the C word, first of all, I don't think it's that offensive. It's just a word. It depends on how you say it. It's the context rather than the word. But I've never, ever thought of it as being a word that's offensive to females only. So that was interesting. We then get a montage of clips of Liz being not necessarily a runt, but certainly not being the most pleasant. And she realises that actually maybe she could be nicer. So she's then really nice to everybody, but it kind of went in the wrong direction. Everybody took advantage of this. They asked for time off work for personal problems that are not really problems, and no work got done. So Liz had to stay all night and get everybody's work done for them. And she realised that when watching a TV show episode that actually she is the boss. And it's not her job to do everybody else's work. It's her job to make sure the work gets done. And she gives this great speech, very well written speech. She actually shouts at one point. I think this is the first time we hear her actually yelling at one point. She snaps at somebody, and it was quite a lot. It was intense. And she explains that she is the boss and that sometimes she's not going to be very nice. but that people need to do their own jobs, and she confronted Lutz, who apologised immediately. I feel like to him it wasn't a big deal, it was just something he said to vent, and obviously Liz was never meant to hear it. But I guess there are a couple of really great lessons here. One, don't say that thing about your boss, and if you do, don't say it at work, because there's a very good chance they'll hear about it. But also, you never know which colleagues to trust, so it's just not worth saying. And also, if you're the Liz of the story, there's a middle ground. She referred to herself as, well, she said she would be Hitler if she was behaving in a certain aggressive way, and there's a middle ground. You don't have to be Hitler or everybody's best friend. There is a middle ground where you're the boss, but you're maybe not a Nazi person, and Liz had to learn this, and I think we have some really solid messages, and I really enjoyed the episode. I don't know if I have any personal highlights. Well, Tracy's speech. I really enjoyed that. And I guess Liz's outburst as well. I thought it was very well written, great delivery, solid performances. And Jack's face, actually, when Liz was giving the speech and she said, I'm the boss, and, this is what a boss does. Jack is in the background and he smiles, proud of her. And that was a really lovely moment, so I liked that as well. And just in general, I thought this was a really solid episode. Missed Jenna. Jenna's not in this one, which is a shame. But other than that, and we had Cat. The cat was adorable. The C Word is definitely a really great episode of 30 Rock. It's one that I really thoroughly enjoyed.